Hello, 7th graders. This is a review of all of the topics from Chapter 1. On your test, I can solve equations, I can solve and graph inequalities, I can combine like terms, I can determine solutions to equations, I can graph ordered pairs. I'm going to go through each type of question that's on the test. The first type of question is to solve equations. Some of the equations are one step, some of the equations are two steps. Since one steps are a little bit easier, I'm only doing this a little bit more difficult looking one. It looks kind of like a fraction y over 4, and it is, but another way to look at this problem is to look at it as y divided by 4. When we know that it's division, then it's easy to do the opposite. It's hard to think of the opposite of a fraction, but the opposite of division is multiplication. So if I'm saying this as y divided by 4, the opposite, and to get rid of the 4 is to do the opposite, I'm going to multiply times 4. If I multiply times 4 on one side, I have to multiply times 4 on the other side in order to keep the equation true. So now that I did two opposite operations, I can get rid of the 4 and I have y left on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, I'm going to do that problem. 6 times 4 is 24. And that's my answer. Now moving on to two-step equations, meaning I have to do 2 steps. The first step is always undoing the addition or subtraction. So the first step is undo plus or minus. And the second step is to undo times or divide. We always do it in that order because it's the backwards order to the order of operations. So think about it as undoing something in the opposite order of which you would do the problem. So I would do this problem as 3 times x first, and then I would minus 5. So in order to undo that problem, I'm going to undo the minus 5 first, which would be plus 5 on both sides. This side, the minus 5 plus 5 are opposites. They cancel out, and I have just 3 times x left. And on the other side, I have 12. Okay? Then I'm going to do the only thing that's left. I'm going to undo the multiplication by dividing by 3. X is the same as 4. And the last one, same thing. I'm going to undo the plus 1 first. Opposite of plus 1 is minus 1. Those cancel out, and I have 5 times x left on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, I have 10. Divide both sides by 5, and x equals 2. The next learning target is solving and graphing inequalities. This is a little bit of a challenge because you have to do a lot of things. So the first thing you have to do is you need to solve the inequality. An inequality is just saying that it's not equal. It's either greater than, this is greater than, less than, this is less than, greater than or equal to, and less than or equal to. Those we call inequalities because they're not equal, but they're still telling us something about the problem. I'm going to solve this just like I would solve an equation. I'm going to divide by 4 to get x by itself. X stays on this side. On this side, it's 3. And in the middle, I'm just going to bring the exact same thing down. This says x is greater than or equal to 3. So on my graph, I'm going to put 3 because 3 was my solution. I'm going to put a circle on the 3 right on the graph. Now, the circle there needs to be filled in for this problem because it's greater than or it's equal to. So if it could possibly equal 3, I'm going to fill it in to say, yep, that could equal 3. Or it is greater than 3. The trick I showed you in class is if the variable comes first, then this symbol looks like it's pointing in the same direction as the arrow should be pointing. If the variable doesn't come first, you can switch it around, but you need to make sure that that alligator is still eating the bigger number. Okay, the next one, if I solve it, I'm going to subtract 3 on both sides. G is less than, 6. because 9 minus 3 is 6. So I'm going to graph 6. I'm going to have a circle, and that circle is going to stay open. It's open because it cannot equal 6. It is, G is less than 6, so it is showing this direction. Everything that's less than 6. It could be 5.999999999, but it cannot be 6. And that's why I put my circle on the 6, but I open it to show that it is not equal to 6. Moving on, combining like terms. The easier version of combining like terms is this first one here. What I'm going to do is I'm just looking for things that are on what we call the same team, right? We're looking for ones that have the exact same variable. So I notice this is 4c and this is plus 2c. I include the symbol in front to know if I'm putting them together or subtracting them. If I have 4c and 2c, I think of that kind of like 4 cookies and 2 cookies. Altogether, I have 6 cookies. 4 C's and 2 C's altogether is 6 C's plus 7. 7 can't be added because it doesn't have a C on it. This is done. It's as simple as it gets. Can't get any simpler. Now the next one, we have to do the distributive property first, then combine like terms. There are 2 like this on your test, and they are definitely more difficult than this first problem that we did. So the first thing you need to know is that when there's a parenthesis and a number like this, it means to multiply. Now this is saying multiply by both things. So this is saying there's 2 sets of m and 2 sets of 5. So 2 times m is 2m. And 2 times 5 is 10. And since we had a plus in the middle, we're going to keep that plus down here. We also had plus 3 just sitting out there on the end. We'll add that. Now this looks great. It's correct, but it's not done. It needs to be as simple as it can get. And I noticed that there's 2 m's here and 3 m's plus 3 m's over here. So I'm going to take 2m plus 3m to get 5m. And then this plus 10 just gets added to the end because it cannot go together with the m's. And the last one, again, I'm going to take my number outside of the parentheses and I'm going to distribute it inside the parentheses. So I have 4 times a, which is 4a, and 4 times 2, which is 8, and I'm going to bring down that minus sign, plus 6a. Now later we want to think of this as a negative number, but we haven't really talked a lot this year about integers yet. So we will be going to that where we say 4 times negative 2, which is negative 8. It's going to give us the same thing as bringing it down. It'll just make life easier if we have a negative in the front. So for now, it's okay to do it that way. We've got 4 A's and 6 A's, and it wants us to add those things together, 4A plus 6A. So that's 10A. And then I have 8, but notice that there's a minus 8. That minus needs to stay with the 8. It needs to stay in front of the 8. So 10A minus 8. If you did this in a different order, you could write negative 8 plus 10A. That is just as correct. Just making sure that negative stays with the 8. All right, the next learning target is to determine solutions to equations. So this here is an equation. In my equation, I have an x and I have a y. Just like an ordered pair has an x and it has a y, we're going to plug these parts of the ordered pair into this equation to see if it is true or false. So I'm going to take this 3x plus 2, and instead of x, I'm going to put 5 there. So I'm going to say, instead of saying 3x plus 2, I'm going to say 3 times 5 plus 2. And that's what y equals. So I'm going to try that. 3 times 5 is 15, plus 2 is 17, y is 17. Okay, if y is 17, is this true? Y is showing that it's 17. So this is my x, this is my y. Is y 17? It is. So this, yes, would be a solution because it works for this equation that's shown. Let's try the next one. My x is 2 and my y is 10. Does that work for this equation? Well, I'm going to plug my x in, 3 times 2 plus 2, and that's what y needs to equal. Well, 3 plus 2 is 6, plus 2 is 8. Y equals 8. Is that true up here? Does y equal 8? No, that didn't work. So we're going to circle no, it's not a solution. And the last learning target is graphing ordered pairs in all 4 of the coordinates. So quadrants. What we want to do is we want to find the letter and give the directions for that letter. We always start in the center and we move either to the left or to the right to find the point first. Then we're going to move up or we're going to move down. I like to think of a little guy standing in the middle with a ladder trying to get to the point. So here's the little guy. He's standing with his ladder. He doesn't want to climb up his ladder before he moves left or right because that would be really difficult. He's going to carry his ladder over to the A and then he's going to climb up to the A. So he went over 1, that's positive 1, and he went up 1, and that's positive 1. So that point is 1, 1. Let's find B. So B, he's starting in the center, and he is moving 3 places, 1, 2, 3, to the left. Now notice I'm counting the lines, 1, 2, 3. And when I go to the left, I'm counting negative. So I might even say negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. And that is how far over we go. And then we're going down. Down is also negative, down 1. So that is negative 1. Finding point C. Point C, I'm starting here, and that little guy with the ladder does not need to move left or right to get to C. He just needs to go straight up. So we are moving 0 spaces left or right, and then we are climbing 1, 2, 3, 4 to get to the C. And last one, D. I'm starting again in the center. I'm moving 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, back it up. Spaces to the right, that's positive. And then I'm going down 1, 2, 3 spaces down. So I went 2 to the right, which was positive, and 3 down, and down is negative. Now I'm going to graph these. I'm trying to find a different color here. Let's see. Oop, that's not working. I'm going to graph these points that I have down below, point E and point F, and I will just use the color I already used now that I erased it. Okay, so for point E, we're going to follow these directions. We're going -2 and +3. So we're starting in the center, we're going left 2, because that's where the negatives are, and then we're going up 3, 1, 2, 3, and that is where I'm going to put the point. I'm going to name that point E. F, I'm starting in the center, I'm moving 5 places in the positive direction, so 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to go 0 up and down. That's going to be right on the line. Whenever you see a 0, it's going to be on one of the 2 lines. I'm going to name that point F. All right, other ways that you can study is looking over your notes, trying practice problems, going in your book and trying problems from the chapter review. All of those problems all of the answers to those problems are in the back of your book in the selected answers section. So you can try a problem, check the problem, try a problem, check the problem. And always remember, you can come in and ask me for help.